My name is Taylor Wallace, and I am from Boston, Massachusetts. I would define my digital nomad style, if you will, as a slow mad, meaning I like to stay in one place at least 3 months, sometimes up to 6, kind of as a function of where I am, what the weather's like, how the waves are, important things like that. So I'm coming into my 4th year of digital nomading. So when I was younger and more autonomous in my job, it was kind of just like what place just like looked the coolest, you know, or like something that just had always been on my one day, someday list, and realized like, why does it have to be someday? It could be next week. So I think early on, I mean, it was always important to prioritize like places where like, you know, there was what I would call like the tribe, which is basically like-minded people. So other entrepreneurs, people who are socially conscious and, you know, not just a group of Americans like living together in this country and only hanging out with each other and only speaking English, like people who are really interested in getting the full experience of living abroad, because, you know, what's the point if you're just doing the same you were doing at home but in a different area code. So yeah, early on I was much more kind of flexible and free. Now that I've gotten older, I think I kind of have like a list of non-negotiables when it comes to deciding where I'm going to be. Like time zones are super important. With my job, I do have a bit of flexibility, but I need to like give adequate consideration on the front end of like, okay, if I'm going to be 6 hours ahead of my team, like what is that going to look like? Do I have the energy and motivation to be waking up at this time and going to sleep at this time? And sometimes the answer is absolutely not. But for some destinations, it's like, yeah, I'll gladly go nocturnal, you know, just to have this experience. The decision to start nomading was kind of a weirdly logical one. So I started my first company back in 2016, living in Boston at the time, and we got accepted into a business accelerator that was based out of New York. So I moved to New York, you know, going through this accelerator, just the hustle and grind of not only the startup ecosystem, but that time the city of Manhattan is a lot. And so we finally graduated from our accelerator program. And at that point, pretty much my entire team was remote, except for our creative director who lived in the city. And that's, you know, we were in fashion, it made sense. So as I started looking at potential new apartments, you know, looking at moving back to Boston and moving back to New York, like a lot had changed because, you know, when I started my business, I still had my corporate job and was working on my business on the side. And now here I am working on a business full-time, solopreneur, looking at, you know, $2,100 for a studio. Like, are you kidding me? That's like 3 developers. I can't justify paying that. And so I'm like trying to figure out like how to balance life and my business. And I just like felt like I was a crazy person. Like, how do people afford this? And I think like I got some kind of like targeted ad, good, great marketing person, remote year. I got like an ad I think on Instagram or something that just introduced this idea of living and working abroad. And I was fortunate enough that like my parents have always prioritized, like I've always reminded my siblings and I, like, you know, the US is not the center of the world. So we traveled a lot as kids and we really got to experience a lot of different cultures and communities. And I knew it wasn't a question of comfort, like I think maybe it is for most people. It was more so a question of like, is this the best move for my business? Like, what are the trade-offs that I maybe can't see? And being and running a startup, so being beholden to not just myself, but, you know, investors and stakeholders and stuff, like really having to actually take time and do some research and like present to this board like why I should be allowed to go, which is what I think a lot of employees probably would have to do. But I think that was kind of unique, being an entrepreneur but still having to prove that I could run my business abroad, even though it made absolutely no difference, like, because it's not like I was seeing them ever. But yeah, so basically once I got the begrudging nod of approval, I was just ready to go. I looked at the itinerary of a few different programs to kind of see like what cities were kind of well known and established to have decent Wi-Fi, be secure. The strategies that I have were definitely acquired through like trial and error. When you are someone like myself who genuinely loves what you do, it can be really hard to set boundaries. A lot of the times when you are home, wherever home is for you, you have certain infrastructure that's in place that you don't even realize is there. So whether that's like your group of friends that get together for a happy hour every day, or I don't know what normal humans do, every day, or whatever frequency throughout the week, or you've got like your gym, or you've got your puppy, or you've got your call with your mom every day. You have all these things that you don't realize kind of make up your normal. And so when you move to a new place, like, all of that's gone. And if you don't take the time to like, one, like acknowledge that, and then two, kind of consciously rebuild those foundations in whatever way necessary, you can really spin out pretty quickly. Actually, I wrote an article about this, the concept of traveler's depression, where like basically you are in a new city, it's beautiful, new people, new food, like you're so stimulated, you feel so happy, because you're just constantly reacting to all of these new things. But after a while, things stop being so new and it's just another day. For me, I know the things that bring me joy, when it comes to like the activities that when I'm having a really shitty day or when I just need to reset or whatever, like I'm really into pole fitness. I can usually find that pretty much anywhere in the world. I really like to play hockey. I played in college, and when I'm in Europe, it's usually pretty easy to find. It's one of the reasons that Lisbon is in my trifecta. And then like I just really like to just be physically active. So I'll find, I don't think out in Thailand, I tried my hand at ultimate frisbee. Never thought I would. My college self could see me, but like by forcing yourself to kind of get out there, like meet people, not let the bad habits from home follow you, but also not losing track of the good habits from home. Like, so just being really intentional with how you structure, your lifestyle in this new environment. My 3 homes are Chiang Mai in Thailand, Lisbon, Portugal, and Medellin, Colombia. And my first year of nomading, I did a different city in a different country every month, like the proper, like remote, like it's funny because the word is remote, a year of remote working. And through that experience, I like really realized like the cities that I loved and the cities that I was like super cool, never going back to ever again. And so what I really liked about Chiang Mai is just like, the pace of life. I liked that it was a Buddhist country and you could really feel it. People were very warm. I really loved going to monk chats every Wednesday, or I could just like ask all of my existential questions about life to these monks. And the purpose is basically to help the monks improve their English. So like after a few months living there, I had some really cool friends at the monastery near me, and Yeah, it's just a solid nomadic community. You can easily just get your little moto bike, and it's just like a really quality place to like get to know yourself better and grow as a person and professionally. Food's good, it's cheap. I mean, I could go on. I mean, it's just an awesome place. Lisbon, of course, so I'm half Brazilian, so I speak Portuguese, so that's a big factor, being able to communicate, like I mentioned, is very important to me. Portugal has some of the best waves in the world, one of the most famous drop zones in the world. Cost of living is really reasonable, but you still have this ability of the euro. I have mixed feelings about nomading in Europe. I don't know, it didn't really click for me, but when I was in Lisbon, it really felt like home. It felt like its own little, food was bomb, everyone was kind. You get a really nice bottle of wine for €2. So checked out no, I'm just kidding. There's a really like a solid up and coming entrepreneurial ecosystem there as well. So like tons of meetups, like tons of conferences and things like that. And that was really attractive. And then lastly, being here in Medellin, I mean, Colombia is a beautiful country. Medellin, the city of eternal spring. So I love energetically, I feel like the climate and the environment here is really complementary to me and my personality. When selecting a place, it's not all about the cost. Sometimes people will think that money is the most important thing, when in reality it's safety. So I know I'm very comfortable here because I've lived here in different capacities even before nomading. But being able to kind of see the evolution of not just the city but the country has been really personally fulfilling for me. So I think that's it. Simple as it is, like if it's something that you want to do or something that you want to try, like just do it. There's always going to be a million reasons to not do something, and I'm trying to I'm kind of intentionally skirting around every cliche quote ever about tomorrow never comes, and on your deathbed you don't regret the things that you did, the things you didn't do, or insert cliche here, but there's a reason it's a cliche because it's so true. I think a lot of us live our lives in one of two modes, either just autopilot and this is how it's been, this is how it is, and therefore this is how it always has to be. We don't even allow ourselves to consider that there's an alternative. And then once you kind of have that awakening, whether it's see it on Instagram or you see, a YouTube, vlogger, and it just looks so beautiful and luxurious and unattainable. It's you're okay, well, that's their life. There's no way that I could I'm not an Instagram model, or I don't know how to do cool effects on Adobe Premiere. So what's, how could this be my reality? And the answer is it's not about what everyone else is doing. If you take the time and get clear on what it is that you want to do, whether it's yo, I just need a fucking break, I'm gonna take a sabbatical, and you just want to take a year and travel, that's cool. It doesn't have to be these rigid definitions of okay, I'm gonna sell my house and sell all my shit and give my dog to my grandma and I'm going on the road and see you never, America. You could do that if that's your vibe, but I think that, again, going back to the fact that the journey is just that, it's a journey, and it's your journey. So I think once you have clarity around what's important to you, you can start reverse engineering how to make it happen. So if you're I just want to give it a try, I just want to see what it's like, okay, find a place 1 month, maybe in the same time zone, a flight that's not too expensive, from your home airport, kind of give yourself some safety net, and then just go for it. Like worst case scenario, maybe you lose a deposit on an Airbnb. Like you'll get over it, and you'll always look back and say, you know what, like I fucking tried it. I gave it a go and it wasn't for me. But now I can, like, there's no one to blame, there's no hypothetical. Like I made the decision that this is not something I want to do. Or you go and you realize it's freaking awesome. And so you either, I have some friends that left on a 1 month nomading trip like 3 years ago and just never came home. Like, so again, everyone's journey is their own. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Like it all starts with just making the decision. Being a digital nomad isn't easy, because I guess it's a very relative term, but it's a lot easier than I think most people think, or it's a lot more attainable than most people think, both financially, logistically, professionally. So I guess if you're someone that's considering becoming a digital nomad, I would encourage you to maybe even do a little free writing exercise, and maybe just see what pops up, 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and just write down all of the things that you think you know about digital nomading, or the fears that you have about becoming a digital nomad, or the reasons why you think you can. And just really do a brain dump to maybe get a little bit more clear on what limiting beliefs you might have, if any. I find that that's a really practical way to disassemble or unpack some of the things that might be standing in our way when it comes to doing the things that we decide that we want to do. So taking your hypothetical fears and actually getting them down on paper and going through them one by one and actually fact checking yourself. And I think that really helps with the process of building confidence that this is something that you can do. It's something that anyone can do once they make the decision.